Hello, guys and gals, and this is part 16 of our reading of Rod Serling's Twilight Zone, 26 Unforgettable Explorations into the Realm of the Supernatural, adapted by Walter B. Gibson, rather. I know it sounds like I say P, but I mean B. They're letters that sound the same. Anyways, we are going to go over the copyright information, which is Rod Serling's The Twilight Zone is copyright 1963 by Cayuga Productions Incorporated, and Rod Serling's Twilight Zone Revisited is copyright 1964 by Cayuga Productions Incorporated, all rights reserved. This 1983 edition is published by Bonanza Books, distributed by Outlet Book Company, Random House Company, and it gives the address. This book was previously published as two separate works entitled Rod Serling's The Twilight Zone and Rod Serling's Twilight Zone Revisited. Posted and bound in the United States of America, Library of Congress, and information is there too if you're interested in that. Now, we were reading The Tiger God. And in the last part, we met with Greylock, who was trying to find diamonds because he had heard that there were diamonds in India, and also looking into mystics and magicians that he could take back to London. And he met Kalma, who did some amazing feats. He also met Bardu, who was an adept. And so, yeah. Now Kalma predicted something, and now it's apparently happening. A tiger escaped or something. We're going to continue. Okay. Okay. And he has the mongoose with him because the Shalbar went to the Delhi conference in the stead of the Raja because he was told about the tiger attack. So, anyways. Okay, so they're from an outlying village informed the Chakra, not to be confused with chakra. It's Chakra, near the great game preserve where His Highness often hunts. Last night they had a tiger scare and found a watchman dead at the crossroads. Greylock heard the repeated cry, "Bag Zaloom, Bag Zaloom," proving that the villagers had already identified the killer as the much-feared tiger god. Kalma's second vision had thus been fulfilled, and Greylock noticed that the fakir had arrived in the courtyard and was standing beside the Raja as if eager to take credit for his prophetic skill. Then a group of men came through the archway, all carrying rifles. The villagers changed their cries to Nayudu, Nayudu. Greylock turned to the houseboy and asked, "What is Nayudu? Another killer tiger?" "No, Sahib," Greylock. "Nayudu is a tiger killer." "What sort of double talk is this? A killer tiger? A tiger killer? I see, you mean that Nayudu kills tigers and makes him a hunter." "Yes, Sahib." The Chokra pointed to the big man who was talking to the Raja. "That is Nayudu, the chief shikari or hunter. The villagers love him." Nayudu soon made arrangements with which the chakra translated. "The villagers will work as bearers. They will carry supplies far into the jungle and build machans or high platforms in trees from which the shikaris can shoot. They will serve as beaters to drive the tiger down from the jungle. If elephants are used in the hunt, the villagers will act as satmans, men with spears who follow on foot. They are all eager to get rid of Bag Zaloom." Later, the Raja summoned Greylock and introduced him to a heavy, broad-faced Hindu named Chopra, who was an important zamindar or landowner. "Chopra will take charge of the palace until Shalbar returns," declared the Raja, "but I would like you to supervise Kalma's living burial, or samadhi. and keep a complete record of every detail while I am away. Greylock agreed with a bow, and he received the appreciative smile, not only from the Raja, but from the Princess Helena, who was thus freed of responsibility during her father's absence. Now Kalma approached the Raja and placed a token in his hand, a flat disc of metal with a yellowish gem set in the center. This is a Kavaka talisman, the fakir told the Raja. Its metal is simply iron because that has long been recognized as the great protector against wild beasts. The stone in the center is topaz, the color of a tiger's eye. Keep it with you constantly during the hunt, and no tiger can possibly harm you, not even Bag Zaloom. Soon the Raja was off to the hunt with Nayudu and the shikaris, who included most of the palace guards. For the next few days, all was quiet about the palace itself. Kalma was preparing for his living burial by means of special breathing exercises, which were helpful to suspended animation. Messages were received from the Raja stating that the hunting party had gone well beyond the village where tigers had been reported, but so far had seen no sign of Bag Zaloom. Then one morning, Shaubar came in by train from Delhi. Upon learning from Princess Helene that the Raja had left, Shaubar had held an immediate conference with Greylock and Chopra. Juju enlivened the proceedings by jumping back and forth from Shaubar to Greylock as though uncertain which master to choose. Juju reminds me of the council up in Delhi, observed Shaubar with a tired smile. They jump every which way at nearly everyone's beck and call. It's getting pretty sticky here there. Juju reminds me of the council up in Delhi, observed Shaubar with a tired smile. They're jumping every which way at nearly everybody's beck and call. It's getting pretty sticky, though, for tight little states like Bildapur. No matter how nicely they are run, the nationalism movement is going to squeeze them out. They talk as though it might happen in 30 days, but my bet is it will take 30 years. Take it easy, old man, rejoined Greylock. Look at me. Here I am in a place I've never heard of a month ago, with a mongoose on my shoulder and a fakir waiting to be buried alive while I supervise the job, unless you can stay long enough to take over. Sorry, but I can't, declared Shaubar. I must join the Raja and have him go to Delhi to see the council himself. It is that important. The chauffeur of the Royal Model T knew the way to the Raja's hunting camp and was sure that they would make it before nightfall. But before the car pulled away, Kalma approached Shaubar and said, "Since you will not have your mongoose with you," the fakir gestured to Juju, still on Greylock's shoulder, "I shall provide you with a Kavaka talisman as a protection against cobras." Kalma handed Shaubar a token similar to the Raja's, but with a ruby instead of a topaz as its center gem. The fakir explained that the yellow gem represented the tiger's eye, the red gem a cobra's, thus accounting for the special immunity that each type of talisman provided. Shaubar left, and by nightfall, Princess Helena began to worry about her father. Kalma, who showed up in the silent way of his, again had an answer to the problem. I, too, have felt that the Kavaka talismans were not enough protection for your father and his secretary, Kalma told Princess Helena. So I have prepared these. From his robe, he brought out a clay statuette beautifully molded and painted to represent a striped tiger. Next, he produced another statuette, this one in the form of a coiled cobra, covered with gilt. The tiger image is for the Raja, declared Kalma, and the cobra image is for Shaubar. but to retain their potency, they must be kept in the safest of all places. That would be the vault where the famed diamonds of Bildapur are stored. You, my princess, are the only one here who knows where it is located." The princess hesitated. She was about to speak when Greylock interrupted, but in a courteous manner, and brought a grateful look from Helena. "But the princess does not know," asserted Greylock suavely. His Highness the Rajah told me that only two persons know where the diamonds are kept, the Rajah himself and his secretary Shalbar." Kalma said Greylock with sharp, boring eyes, the sort that could ferret out the truth, and Greylock was met with that gaze with the confidence of a man who has told it. There was momentary annoyance in Kalma's tone as he spoke again to the princess. "But you do have a place where you can keep the statues safely." "Most certainly," replied Helena, "in my own jewel cabinet." "That should be satisfactory," Kalma decided. "But first, let me add the incantation that will mark the charm itself long-lasting." He brought out a small box, opened it, and took a pinch of powder, which he sprinkled over the tiger image. He plucked a candle from the table, held it so that the melted wax dripped on the statuette. The powder ignited with a flame in which the striped figures seemed to writhe as if alive. Then, with another pinch of powder and the same candle flame, Kalma applied the magical treatment to the cobra image, producing a strange effect of twisting coils before the flame died away. "Let them cool," Kalma told Helena, "then put them away." With a parting bow, he added, wherever they are, they will be safe together." That last statement could have referred to the Rajah and his secretary, as well as the image of the tiger and the cobra. As a matter of fact, the Rajah of Bildapur and Shalbar were together at that very moment, in a tent in jungle clearing, where the hunting party had halted for the night. In the glare from a kerosene lantern, the Rajah was going over a sheaf of questionnaires that Shalbar had brought back from Delhi. "Same old story," said the Rajah wearily. "They want reports on how I treat my subjects. Do they have enough food, enough clothing, enough schools? Naturally, they don't have enough of anything except tigers. Of course, they have too many, and particularly one too many, a tiger called Bag Zaloom. Have you brought the council down here to help us hunt him?" "They wouldn't have believed there was a tiger god if I had told them," replied Shalbar. "No, your highness. There is only one answer. We must both go to Delhi. The car will be waiting for us at the end of the short jungle trail. If you leave right now, but a few minutes more will be too late. As I told the driver, he could go at dark. He fears Bag Zaloom." "Very well." The Rajah scrawled a brief note and laid it beside the lantern. "This is for Nayudu. Telling him that we have gone back to Delhi." "I won't need this." He clanked the metal disc on the table. "Kalma's talisman that protects me against tigers. We won't find them where we're going. Nor will I need this." Shalbar tossed his token on the table. "Kalma said it is a talisman to ward off cobras. I won't need it in Delhi." Shalbar broke off as the Rajah pressed his hand to his chest and straightened upward in a sudden spasm. Anxiously, Shalbar asked, "What is it, your highness? Are you ill?" I seem to be burning right here." The Rajah writhed slightly as he gasped, "But it is over now." He slumped a little, drew a slow, easy breath, and let his hand slide down. "We must leave now, Shalbar. As you say, we must leave." His tone became a smooth, persuasive purr. "And go down the jungle path together." The Rajah's eyes had narrowed to straight slits that showed a strange amber glint in the light. Shalbar's own eyes were wide open and in amazement, and he saw the Rajah's lips spread in a ferocious leer. Then the Rajah spoke again, this time in a snarling tone. "Let us start, Shalbar." And the Raja gestured with one hand. "As you say, there is no time to lose." The Raja stared at his hand as he raised it, closing and opening his fingers in a claw-like manner. Then he looked at his other hand, which he had clenched in the same way. His face showed utter disbelief. He becoming sullenly ugly as he huddled forward in a low crouch as if to avoid light. "There is no time." Understanding dawned on Shalbar. He knew the truth. Fantastic though it was, he sprang forward and boldly pushed the Raja to his hands and knees. Then Shalbar spoke in a sharp, teasing whisper. "Stay here, Your Highness. We can't let anyone see you like this. You understand why, don't you?" Then, as the Raja nodded, Shalbar added in the same tense whisper, "I'll call to you when the way is safe." The secretary gave a low, forced whistle. "When you hear that signal, come from the tent, and not until then. You understand?" The Raja nodded and looked up helplessly. Shalbar stepped out of the tent and into the gathering dusk. He looked cautiously from right to left, then suddenly straightened and clamped his hand to his chest, exactly as the Raja had. He felt a brief but violent burning sensation. Then he suddenly writhed to the ground and squirmed there, unable to move, his hands and arms, which seemed to be bound to his sides. Shalbar was able to lash around in the grass, which now completely covered him. So he did. Not only that, he managed to rear up and look to see if Nayudu or any of the other shikaris were about. Not seeing anyone, Shalbar gave his signal. It was more than a half-whistled whisper. It was a sharp, fierce hiss. For answer, the Raja gave a low snarl from within the tent. Just then, Shalbar reared higher and now saw Nayudu going by. Shalbar hissed again, this time as a warning, but the Raja took it as a signal to come along. So he did, but he paused momentarily, to growl at the light, which bothered him. He reached up and gave it a hard, impatient whack with his tightly closed fist, knocking it clear to the corner of the tent. Fortunately, as the lantern hit the ground, the flame was extinguished. Still crouching, the Raja came from the tent, but instead of being visible, as he would have been against the lighted tent, his low, huddled form was obscured against the darkened backdrop of the jungle. He heard another hiss signal and followed it, softly, calmly, giving a purred response. They moved down the jungle path together, Shalbar gliding ahead and Raja softly creeping behind him. Somewhere between the camp and the waiting car, they slipped into the jungle. Then came a shriek followed by a loud roar, sounds that would have frightened most jungle creatures. The screech was the self-starter of the Model T, the roar its motor. The driver felt he had waited long enough. Two glaring orbs burned along the jungle road, the headlights of the jouncing car. Their gleam was reflected by two pairs of eyes, one pair yellow, the other pair red. They were staring boldly from the jungle brush, but the frantic driver was too excited even to notice them. He kept driving straight on back to Bildapur. When he arrived at the palace late that night, the driver of the royal car told how he had taken Shalbar to the Raja camp. So everyone was satisfied and pleased that both were safe. In the morning, Kalma, informed of the driver's report, declared simply, "My talismans and charms are protecting them. Now I can proceed with my samadhi. I shall go into my trance and be buried alive." At noon, on the brow of the slope slope a quarter-mile from the palace, Kalma was placed in a wooden casket, where he closed his eyes and slackened his breath. Gradually his body stiffened, and he did not seem to breathe at all. His pulse had ceased to a throb when Greylock tested it. The lid was sealed on the casket, which was lowered into a deep pit that Kalma's followers had dug. Those same men filled the pit with loose earth, tramped it down, and then pitched their tents on the slope just below the grave to protect Kalma from the unforeseen. Greylock remembered what the Raja had told him about adepts fighting off wild animals in Himalayan caves. Could well appreciate Kalma's situation. Once the fakir was in samadhi, the complete disunion of flesh and spirit, his body was at the mercy of the elements of any prowling thing, man or beast, that might dig him up, so his followers were keeping constant vigil. Kalma, who was allowing himself to be buried alive for the next 30 days, impressed Greylock as a greater wonder worker than Bardu, who called himself an adept. By simply squatting in a comfortable alcove, sheltered from rain, wind, and sun, in the safety of the palace courtyard, Bardu could call for help or unlimber himself from his lotus position at any time. Probably the reason he sat so passively and restrained from using mystical powers was because he actually had none. All Greylock had to do from now on was visit the hillock daily and receive a routine report from Kalma's followers in case of dire necessity, such as a torrential rain or signs of burrowing insects. Greylock would order the coffin dug up at once, otherwise the living exhumation would take place on the appointed date with Greylock and the other witnesses present. Meanwhile, a messenger arrived from the jungle camp with a note signed by the Raja saying that he and Shalbar had gone to Delhi. Nayudu assumed that they had taken a train from a nearby junction, and he sent along the jeweled discs which he had found on the table in the Raja's tent. Helena put them in her cabinet with the tiger and cobra images, which were so much more important. The Raja and his secretary would be protected by those effigies no matter where they went. Kalma had said so, hence it must be so. Now reports from the Tiger Country told that neighboring Rajas, as well, had been instituted by the Raja of Bildapur. They gave him precedence in his absence. They accepted Nayudu, his chief shikari, as the leader. Soon a cordon of beaters and hunters closed in on a quick, soft-moving tiger that answered the description of Bag Zalum. One day they trapped the tiger god in a jungle valley surrounded by makans high in the trees, each manned by a shikari with beaters in between. The only way for Bag Zalum to slip out was by climbing a tree and surprising a hunter on his thatched platform. That was exactly what the cunning tiger did. He moved in on the shikari, who felt so safe in his high roost, and stunned him with a blow from a heavy padded paw. The tiger came down and continued on his way, while the shikari was found in his makan, still dazed, an hour or so later. At another point, some shikaris fired at Bag Zalum while he was scrambling from the jungle. They heard the crackle of underbrush and small trees. Then silence. Either the tiger was lying wounded, perhaps dead in the brush, or he had gone through the clearing land beyond. Dozens of beaters and shakiris scoured the brush. Suddenly, a very live and unhurt tiger sprang up in their midst. the striped terror bounced straight into the bed of a dry watercourse and sped away beneath the shelter of its high embankments. Nobody was on guard there, and Bag Zaloom was gone like a striped cyclone before anyone could get a shot at him. Next, a new hunting party moved in with a herd of trained elephants, each with a mahout sitting in a howdah as a canopied shooting platform. The mahouts were skilled shikaris, all craving a shot at the tiger god. The satmans, or spearmen, who followed them were an equally tough lot. Then one mahout was frozen in astonishment when a tiger sprang from the high branches of a tree squarely into the howdah. Again, a tree-climbing tiger, who batted the man to the ground, the rifle firing upward as it went. The wild shot made the elephant still wilder. With a scream, the great beast went plowing through the jungle. Everyone let him go, knowing that the tiger would be even more frightened and would jump right in among the satmans. But the tiger didn't. He crouched low in the howdah and rode along on the charging elephant with all the importance of a royal dignitary, right on through the surrounding horde. The other mahouts caught up with the exhausted elephant a few hours later, but by then the tiger had abandoned his canopied perch and had gone his way. Once the tiger god, for by now all the hunters knew that he must be such, came face to face with Nayudu, the master shikari himself. Like a flash, Nayudu aimed point blank at Bag Zaloom, who was crouching, snarling on an embankment only 30 feet away. Nayudu's movement of hesitation was only to make sure of the kill with his first shot, for he knew that a wounded tiger would only attack more savagely. We are going to have to end it here. It's been 27 minutes. We have been reading from The Tiger God. It is a story from Rod Serling's Twilight Zone, 26 unforgettable explorations into the realm of the supernatural, adapted by Walter B. Gibson. If you like this content, make sure you like and subscribe, and ring the bell so you know when I upload. Also, if you want to support me in any way, or if you want to join the Discord server, all the information will be in the description below. As always, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.